All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Alliance Group podcast, and we got an agent spotlight today with Jeremy Springer. This guy is an absolute monster for Pike Creek Financial. He is one of the best mortgage protection guys in the country, and he has seen incredible success. Your career seems to just be going like this, Jeremy. It's pretty awesome. Welcome to Atlanta, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so we were just actually talking before we started rolling about how you got into life insurance. So let's actually back up for a second. What were you doing before you got into life insurance? You were bouncing around to several other things.
So
right?
I graduated high school in 2003, and I went into the military 3-4 years.
Army, right?
Yes, Army. And then after that, I kind of bounced around from career to career. After that, I was in the union as a chemical operator, and then things didn't work out with that and everything. And then I was bouncing around. I taught actually for 5-6 years.
Oh, wow.
Liked everything about teaching but teaching. I liked the weekends and the holidays and all that. So that burned out quick and everything. Yeah. And then my coach from back in high school, he had a family business, Royal Pest Solutions, and they did like pest control, fumigation, things like that. So he offered me a job, and I was like, all right, I'll try this out and everything. And I was there for probably about 7-8 years.
7-8 years, wow.
Yeah, doing a lot of sales and things like that. And then they ended up selling the company. The family sold it and everything. And then
you were on a softball team with John Nelson, correct?
Yes, yep. John Nelson. So
Pike Creek Financial. You guys probably know John Nelson. He's one of our founding MGAs up there with Frank Tomazine.
Yep. So didn't know John personally at all, but we had acquaintances that we all knew from each other. So I knew of John Nelson, but I didn't know him personally or anything. And we were getting ready for a softball tournament, and we were in a group text, and he just sends out a random text saying like, who's tired of working where they're working, who wants to be their own boss and who wants to make X amount. And I was like, man, that sounds pretty good to me and everything. So I started texting some people.
Effective recruiting text by John Nelson.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely got my wheels turning. So, like, I kind of, like, vetted it out and everything and be like, all right, first, who's John Nelson? What's he's about? What's this Pike Creek Financial about? What are they selling? I mean, make sure, because I was like, it kind of sounds good, but I want to make sure. And, I mean, everything checked out. Everybody was like, yeah, John, he's legit. Frank's legit. This is what they do and everything and all that. I was like, all right. So, so I start looking more into it. And
this is up in you guys are up in Delaware, so it's pretty easy for you to check around. On John. I understand Delaware's pretty small.
Yeah, if you need to know anything about anybody, just ask your neighbor and they can they can tell you.
Right.
And so I got licensed back in about 2015, 16, and I was still at my old sales job. And I was looking at the time as something like I could just do like part time, sell some policies to some family and friends, just for some extra spending money and things like that. I always envisioned like going out on my own, being my own boss and being self-employed. I was always a dream of mine, but I just never thought it would be like, a reality. You know what I mean? Like, cause I'm not a risk taker. I like comfort. I like knowing what tomorrow is as best as I can, what tomorrow is going to come.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. So the idea of leaving this job that I honestly hated, but provided a stable paycheck, health benefits, things like that, I was like, well, that's just something I had to swallow for my family. Yep. And I'm fine with doing that. And my wife just nonstop was like, I really think you'd be good at this. And like, if you know anything about me, like I'm not a salesy person.
Right. Which I think is actually part of the reason for your success. Yes. Is because you don't come across as a salesperson.
Yeah. I'm not salesy in terms of like, I'm not going to push it down your throat. But if I'm passionate about something and if I believe in it, like I'm going to push it down your throat. But in a way of like, not sale, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to make sure you realize like in my mind, I go, and you are the biggest fool right now for not taking this and everything.
Yeah, but
I'm not going to say that to you. You know what I mean? Like, I want to make sure it's not the smartest decision, but at the end of the day, it's on you. So that was another big hurdle I was like, man, I was like, I was in teaching for a while and things like that before that. And that was the biggest obstacle was like going into the classroom every day in front of all these people. It's like, I was out of my comfort zone. I didn't like it. I'm good in one-on-one. I'm good in very small settings, but not like all eyes on me. You know what I mean? Like it was never, so I was like, now I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Sitting in front of people and selling myself and selling. So I was like, I don't know. So I stuck. So kept my license active and everything for years, did family and friends. And then like, I think John and Frank started seeing like the potential of like, hey, like you need to quit your job. Like you need
to do this full time.
Yes. And almost making like, not an ultimatum, but being like, you're going to regret not doing this sooner than later. And I'm like, whatever. I mean, like I'm going to do what I want to do. And then, but the whole time my wife's like, I really think you should do it. I really think you should do it. But like I was telling Travis and everything, last night. My wife's also the type of person that nothing bad can happen. You know,
Right.
I'm the opposite. If something bad's going to happen tomorrow, it's going to happen to me. My wife is nothing's going to happen. Everything's going to take care of itself. So it's
Right.
a very good balance. But I'm like, I don't know, this ain't going to work. And so what happened was a lot, like I kept on telling God, just give me signs that you think this is where I should be. You know, give me one sign about like my job getting worse, but I took a big pay cut and this and that. But still, I'm like, all right, I need more signs. I need more. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like to the point where, like, I joke with like family and friends. I'm like, I feel like God's up there going like, all right, I'm done with the signs, dude. Like, I literally open the door for you if you don't want to take it. Whatever.
Not,
like, what?
He's not understanding the signs.
Yeah, it's on you. So the final straw was, the funny thing is, it was like I joke around, but like I owe like. I love softball. Like besides working, softball is just my release. It's fun, hang out with guys and everything and all that. And like I joke because it's like I owe everything almost to softball because like I found out about this job through softball, and then the way I even got into it 100% to where I am now is through softball.
Right.
Because about 3 years ago, we were having one of our end of season tournaments. First game of the day, hit a ball. I'm like, man, that's a good freaking hit and everything. I'm running. Next thing I know, I'm just on the ground, and I'm like, man, what the heck? I literally get up and looking around, what the hell did I trip on and everything? Get up, take another step, fall down again. Look down at my calf. It's completely ripped off. Completely blew my calf out. Like, awful. Cart off the field. I'm like dry heaving, sweat. Like, it was bad. And
my gosh.
Ambulance comes, gets me to go to the hospital and all that. I'm out of it. So now I'm not even thinking about anything other than first thing that pops on my mind is how am I going to pay my bills? Like, this is a nightmare. So out of work, can't do my job.
This is still, you're still
my
at
old
the
sale,
old job,
so
right?
still at my
So
old
are you
sales
part-time with Pike Creek at this point?
So at this time, I don't even know. So when I first got licensed, I might have done, can you edit things?
Well, I hope so.
Okay. I was about to get into numbers and all that, so I didn't know if you want me talking numbers.
Sure, yeah.
I know some guys love talking numbers.
Talk numbers, yeah.
Okay.
Can you edit? Well, have to now.
Like, all right, does this have to document it? I'm showing 30 on paper, but I did 300. No, but
Right.
So my first year when I first got licensed, I did like 30,000. I was like, man, that's good side money. And then the next year, I did maybe like 50,000, something like that. That's when I started doing I wasn't into the lead program yet, but like John and Frank and
Mortgage protection.
some other people, yes, they were like, hey, can you go do this appointment for me and this and that and everything, to start getting
Here and there,
used to,
doing some leads here and there.
And then, backpedal a little bit, the job that I was at currently gave me like a real nice raise at the point before they took it all back. So then it got to the point where it's like, I don't even need to do this, all this stuff. But it was also because I was just so consumed with the other job. I just had no time to do anything. So I went a year where I did nothing, like no sales at all. And that's when the year before I did absolutely nothing. So then at the softball tournament, I got hurt. And so insurance is not, what I'm saying is like, insurance was so far out of sight at that time.
Yeah,
like, it's not like I was like, okay, I can go do this now. I was like, I wasn't even thinking about that. So I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I just remember like my doctor telling me like, you're going to be out of work for at least 3 to 6 months at this point because you can't do your job.
Wow.
The condition your legs in. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, all right, I'm looking at the very low amount of short-term disability I'm getting through my job, which is, X amount of what your max was before overtime, then tax. And it was just like, okay, I got enough to pay my mortgage. Okay. You know what I mean? I got 2 kids, a wife, and all that stuff and everything. So then I was like, and I think it was my wife. She was like, why don't you start looking into insurance? I'm like, first off, we're pinching pennies now. I'm on disability. Now you want me to pay for these leads? I was like, I don't know. And also, like, it was almost like I probably haven't even talked to like John and Frank maybe for like that entire year beforehand because I was just so out of sight with it. And I was like, what am I going to like call these guys? Like, hey, I kind of went back in. And
Yeah.
all that. But I was like, you know what? Swallow my pride and reach back out to them. And they were totally receptive. And because I didn't know if like I burned my bridge because I kind of was just like, hey, this isn't for me. You know what I mean?
Step back from them.
Yeah. So, I mean, reached back out. I actually saw John at a work event for my wife. She was working for a company that John knew the owner. So we were kind of there together. He said, hey, what's going on? And I kind of filled him in and he was like, so you want to sell again and all that? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm thinking about it and all that. And the next thing you know, the following week we're back talking and I'm like, you know what? Just pull the trigger on the leads. I'll figure out ways to get it paid and everything. It's either going to work or not work.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm going to make this work. And so I started getting leads.
Kind of had to, right?
Yeah. And that was the thing. Yeah. It was like, I'm going to make this work. I was like, talk to all these different people and they tell you how it's not going to work or why it won't work. And I'm like, well, I'll make that decision once I do it, if it works or not. And so start getting leads. And I mean, literally, just took off like fire. And my goal was, I told myself, okay, at that point, I probably had about 3 months to go that I was on disability and not being able to work and all that stuff and everything, and going, okay, well, if I can make as much as what I was making at my old job,
which I hated,
I'll consider leaving. Not guaranteed, because I'm like, this is sales. It could be going tomorrow.
Absolutely, yep.
And all that. It could be just a good 3 months. I was like, it'll have to take a lot for me to go, okay, I'm all in.
Right.
So first couple of weeks go by, not much is going on. Then the first month ends, I'm looking at numbers. I was like, damn, that's pretty close to where I was making, and nobody over my head, nobody complaining about what's going on, nobody asking me where I'm at nonstop. None of that, just peace of mind and, still providing. I was like,
you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, all right, let me try this for another month. So the next thing you know, my leg was not healing. Doctor kept on putting me in like boots and air casts and everything. And it was just like, now my, the short-term disability stuff and everything ran out. So now I can't go to work. My employer would not let me back because I couldn't safely do my job because I was in an air cast and boot and everything.
Oh, wow.
My benefits ran out. So now I'm like, I need this. So now I was like, I forget what it was called. I think it was like FMLA or something, where basically I could keep my job, but you ain't got no pay, you ain't got nothing, but the job's there for when you want. It's like, well, thanks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thanks.
Know.
I'll be sure to feed that.
It's like the Dolphins telling me I have a tight end spot.
Right.
When you'll never get back. It's like, all right, cool. Sounds good.
Right.
So, so now I'm like, okay, now I need to hit this like as hard as ever. And so,
so where are you at the end of those 3 months?
So I think in the first, I think I probably did. So that was probably in the summer of 2019. That was going on. So I finished 2019. I forget exactly, but I think I finished that year with I did like 60,000. It was getting close to the point to where I could have possibly qualified for convention, because even though I was licensed years prior, I wasn't really selling, but I think I got close to actually possibly being considered for convention for first year. So it might have been like 50s, something like that. Because I think like first time it's like 60,000 or something like that for first time.
Yeah.
So and that was only in 4 or 5 months. You know what I mean? And it got to a point to where I literally remember telling my wife, I was like, hey, I think I'm sending an email to resign from my job. She's like, what? Like, holy crap. I was like, I know, I still can't believe it. So I remember typing it up, sending it in, and like instantly, like them getting back to me like, you're a fool. You ain't going to get nothing like this anywhere else, blah, blah. And it's all right. Well,
we'll see.
It is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you're right. You probably are right. You know what I mean? Like, but I'll come back to you if, you know what I mean? If it doesn't work out. So
and 2020 hit.
2020 hit, and I did So that was the summer of 2019 going into 2020, and that's when I did about 60,000. And then when 2021 came around, I was like, you know what? Like with the leads and everything, it's a numbers game. The more people you can sit with, the more sales you can get and everything. And like I try, like when I talk to new people and all that, like they're all about, well, leads are so expensive and I only want to get 5 or 10 leads a week and this and that. I'm like, that sounds great if you could sell all 5 or 10, go 10 for 10. But I'm like, those 10 that come in, you'll be lucky if you can get hold of 5 or 6 of them. You'll be lucky if you can sit with 4 or 5 of them. You'll be lucky if you can get 3 to 4 of those sold and everything. So, and I always tell people, like, flip over any baseball card. Like, the guys that hit 50 home runs are the ones that are getting 500, 600 at bats. They ain't getting 50 at bats.
That's very true. I mean?
So it's like so I need
the guys that are hitting 300 fail 7 out of 10 times.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, and I'm like, if I want those 50 home runs, I need those 500 leads. So, it's just how it is. So I was like, you know what? Okay. So I initially started in like one area where that was another sign from God and everything, was going like Delaware was taken up because John and Frank, that's our area. So I'm looking at different areas and everything. And I see like someone telling me like, oh, look into Philadelphia. I'm like, oh, Philadelphia's right. Who doesn't have Philadelphia? Like major city, people constantly moving there.
Yeah.
and all that. So send, request to Philadelphia. Oh yeah, it's open. I'm like, that's kind of weird. I'm like, all right, so I'll take Philadelphia. And, hear some gripes from family and friends. Oh, you want to go to Philadelphia, blah, 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 and all that stuff and everything. And like, if you know anything about me, like that's who I relate to. Like the hardworking, some people love sitting with those bank CEOs. Yeah. I'll take them when I could take them, but I'm more comfortable working with the guy working at the factory.
Yeah.
They have 3 kids, wife stays home, they make $50,000-$60,000 a year and everything. That's my market. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, that's because
who you relate to, right?
Yes. Yeah. And, going on sidetrack a little bit, like that's how I grew up.
Right.
Single mom, 3 brothers. I saw the crap she had to go through just to make ends meet and everything. And like looking back now doing my job, like the fire she played with all the time of thankfully never getting sick or injured or we would have been screwed.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Absolutely. So it's like, that's why I like when I sit with these people, it's like, no, do you need it? Legally, do you need it? Do you have to sign up? No. But like, do you need it? Yes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Especially when I'm sitting there telling you it's, most times $50 a month for you to cover what you would need.
All this risk.
Yes.
Not just if you pass away, but
yes,
if you get sick.
If you want more, the merrier, great.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, Philadelphia has been just the best. And then I was like, all right, well, now I need more areas. So then I started reaching out to like the communities around there, like Bucks and Berks. And then I went into Baltimore. And it's like, so, I mean, they're not the most glamorous areas, but I don't want, if somebody offered me Santa Monica.
Right.
And it was the same distance to drive, I ain't going. Yeah. I want, you know what I mean? The more creakier the boards are walking into the house, I want it. You know what I mean?
Like, awesome, man.
It's just, and I think it's a relatable because like I come walking in there and like I break them down real quick, like their comfort, because like normally people walk in there and they're like, okay, basically like, what's your budget? Oh, you could do $150 a month. You just make some sacrifices, some cuts and everything. But I always put myself in that shoe. I'm like, I ain't making no sacrifices or cuts. It's like, right. I'm doing this just
life
because
insurance, right?
I kind of have to do it for my family and all, but it's like I also still want to enjoy my perks of everyday work life and everything.
Exactly.
So I always tell people like, okay, this is what you want to cover your whole house plus a couple of your salary. This is what this is. And I always tell people, and some people tell me it's a bad idea, but it works for me. So whatever. I go, if that's too much, don't do it. You know what I mean? If things get tight, if you're basing that off of your overtime you're getting right now or your wife's bonuses, that's not all guaranteed.
Right.
So what if things got tight and you had to make cuts and everything, would you still be able to afford this? And if they say yes, I take their word.
Yeah.
Sometimes people go, well, you know what? And I tell them, like, just because you picked this today doesn't mean you're stuck in stone for the next 10, 20 years. You can make adjustments. You can add to it.
Yeah.
If you want to make it last longer, you can do all those things. But what would you need for at least the next couple of years if something was to happen? And then if nothing happens, hey, good for you. You know what I mean? Like you're beating the odds, and then we can reevaluate and make adjustments and everything.
That's something that I always tell people as well. I always say, now this needs to be a number that fits comfortably into your budget because you don't want to be stressing over this number because it is going to be coming out every month for the next 30 years if we're talking about.
And it'll be the first thing they cancel when they and when they're looking at their bills and they're seeing Netflix for $10.
Mm-hmm. It's like 15 now, 20. I don't know.
Yeah, Netflix and then DoorDash and food and all that, and then they see life
insurance. I can do without that.
Yeah,
right.
That's the first thing they cut, and I get it. You know what I mean? I think it's stupid. I get so annoyed when I see it happen, but I get it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't sit there and go, "Oh, I don't get it." I do get it. So that's why I have to make sure it's comfortable for them. And as soon as they know, like I'm not there just to get all their money and all that stuff and everything, they just get like real relaxed. And a lot of times they go, you know what? I only planned on doing X amount. I know now you told me about how the living benefits and this and that. Mm-hmm. I want even more now. You know what I mean? I want to make sure if something does happen, I originally wanted my house covered. Now, no, I want my house covered and I don't want to have to go back to work if my job tells me I have to come back to work and things like that.
Do you do that a lot? Do you, because mortgage protection we kind of see as it's kind of like a foot in the door, right? Because we're just saying, look, we're showing you how you can make sure that your home is covered and ensure that your home remains a home for your family if something happens to you. And if you get sick, you can pay the mortgage with the money. But really, that's like a foot in the door, right? That's just talking about the mortgage part. If we talk about the DIME needs analysis, we're just talking about the M, right? Yep. So do you get the foot in the door and then talk about other things, or do you just stick with the mortgage protection and then try to come back on the other things?
So what I do is as soon as the appointment's set and everything and I get to their house and everything, very first thing I ask them is, hey, did you guys just buy? Did you refinance? Feel them out. They've been there a while. And then I go, like, do you know how long your loan is for? Most times it's 20, 30 years. So I try to base everything around, okay, if you took your loan out for 20 years, all right, let's look at a 20-year term. And if it's $300,000, I always tell people what I do is I tell them, hey, I'm going to start at the full mortgage amount. Mm-hmm. If that's too much, we can lower it. If you want to go more because you think that's cheaper than what you thought it would be, we can go more. But let's start there, and then I'll fill you out and everything. So if I sit there and tell them and they go, yeah, and most times once I tell them the number, it's either very hardly does anybody ever say, yes, I'll take that. Because now they're like, oh, you told me that I have options.
Right.
Everybody loves options.
What are the other options? Right.
So they're like, well, what would it be for $200,000? So we go low, and then I start asking questions like, well, is there a reason why you won't want the full mortgage cover, especially if the prices I know working for them and things like that and everything? Because I try to explain to people, like, something is better than nothing at the end of the day. Nobody's ever going to be upset if you hand them $50,000, $100,000. Nobody's going to be upset. They will be upset, though, if they knew that they were shortchanging themselves for $10, $20 a month and they could have gotten much more.
Right.
So I worked their way out and everything. And then a lot of times what people ask is, well, if my mortgage is only $300,000, why can I do more? And I explained to them about the process of like the mortgage protection policy. It's not tied into the mortgage itself. It's standalone. Your mortgage company doesn't have to know about it if you don't want them to, which is nice. You know what I mean? If you move and all that stuff and everything, you don't have to tell them. You get to bring it to your new house. I always just keep telling people it's very flexible.
And it's not only paying off what's left on your mortgage. It pays the full amount today.
Yes, and that's another thing. Again, if you have to edit, I'm going off track about what I'm doing is what I tell people about, like, because this goes into parts of, like, I think the training aspect about how to get sales.
Yep. Yeah. And we're going to have a training course on mortgage protection that Jeremy's going to feature. So make sure you check it out on Alliance Academy.
Sorry if I'm messing this up.
No, you're good, man.
But I was going to explain to them about, like, sometimes when the price is too much, you could tell them, like, sometimes, you know what, you don't need as much coverage as you think. Okay, do you have another policy already in place, like a generic death benefit? And your sole worry is, if I die, I just want to make sure my kids or my husband have a place to live. So if your mortgage is $500,000 and they don't like the price of the $500,000 because they're either a smoker or have some health conditions and everything, I get it. Okay, do you have something else in place as well? Yeah, I had this $200,000 policy I picked up a few years ago and everything. Okay, well, let's do $200,000 or $300,000. If you pass away, that pays the house off. But while you're alive, if you get sick or injured, you have access to that. You can use that, like, I don't know what you guys call it and everything, but I've always been taught from John and Frank and everything. It's called, like, the buying time concept. Mm-hmm. So if your mortgage is $500,000, but you only got $300,000 in coverage, and you're able to take that money out and everything, no, that's not enough to pay the house off. But that's going to give you 15, 20 years worth of monthly payments if you just set that aside. So you're buying time to figure out, do I need to move? Do I need to refinance? Do I need to sell? Instead of just being told, crap, I have all this going on. I have no money in. Now I have 6 months before my house is foreclosed. So it's a buying time concept and everything.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it works well and everything.
So you did 2019 was the year that you got hurt. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then 2020 you took a big jump. 2021
I did.
Was a huge leap for you. What did you do in 2021?
$174,000.
You qualified. We saw you in Marco Island. Awesome. You got your ring.
Yeah, it was all, like, it's still, like, I still can't wrap my head around, like, where I'm at now. Like, it's just nuts, very, man.
It's
like,
nuts.
for example, like last night I was in the hotel, and when I'm pressing the elevator button, there's a soap dispenser, and I'm not going to give any credit to my old job, any shout outs or anything, but the soap dispensers, if anybody goes in any bathroom soap dispenser, they're taking over the world with their stuff and everything. And I see it and I go, man, like, I was there like 2 years ago, hated my job, hated everything. Yeah. And now I'm here at the Alliance Group. You know what I mean? Like, it's very, like, I take nothing for granted. Yeah. I know. And that's the thing too. It's like the money and everything. It's just something like, and like, so at the end of 2021, I was like, all right, that'd be cool to do the same, maybe 200,000. Like Frank Thomasine, he was like, what's your goal? And because Frank is big on goals, and I get it. He is. And he's going to hate me for saying this and everything, but, like, we're different people when it comes to that and everything. And he needs, like, every week he has a goal, like his, like a weekly goal that he wants to write a week and everything. Mm-hmm. And I understand that mindset of needing to hit that goal. And if you don't, double up the next week or, things like that and everything. But I've never had goals with anything in life, if that makes sense. But like, I know what I want to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like when he said like, because he's always going over us with like, what's your goals, weekly goals. And I go, I don't know. I just, every single day I want to maximize myself. That's my goal. Right. I can go to bed at night and go, I called every client I needed to. I did everything I possibly could and yielded 0 in sales. Oh, well, it sucks. I'll lose sleep over it. But the next day,
wake up and do it again.
Yeah. The problem I don't like about with goals, especially when it comes to this, is because say my goal is 5,000 a week. If I get that 5,000 on Monday, I don't care.
Right.
I'm still going to try to get 5,000 next day. You know what I mean? So it's like, It doesn't matter. My goal is just to sit with as many people as I can and to get as many people as I can to see the importance in it and say yes. And the rest works out for itself and everything.
Yep.
So
take it day at a time.
Yes. And like I said, I do understand where Frank is coming from because like if you don't have set goal, but I think like people that could wander or lose their work ethic, they need those strict things. Because even like when I was in the Army and everything, I remember getting done basic training and the drill instructor coming up to me saying, I don't know what your name is. Like he kind of knew what my name is. And he was like, that's the best thing you can hear moving out because the ones that are constantly getting called out,
right?
There goes Springer again. You know what I mean? Right. Like that's not good. You know what I mean? Yep. So it's like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you tell me I have to be done by 12, okay. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go home at 12. You know what I mean? I'm still going to find something else to do. Like I'm all about flying under the radar. Like just don't bring attention to myself. So when we're going over yearly goals this year, I was like, you know what? That'd be cool to like 200, 225. Like, man, that'd be crazy. It's like what a doctor makes. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, little old me. So year starts off flying. Like,
you got to a really hot start.
Yeah, just insane and everything. And like, just going like, this just seems so odd. And like, I didn't change anything that I was doing last year. It was just following up, just staying on people and everything. And like I think I hit 100,000 in the first, 3 months.
Yep.
And I just passed 200,000. I think I'm at like 210 now.
That's incredible, man.
And my goal was...
We're August 2nd.
Yeah.
You got a lot of year to go.
Yeah. And my goal was, I don't even know. I don't even think I even picked one. Like I had a goal of like 200, 205, and Frank was like, you could do 250. You could do 250. And I'm like... I remember this hanging up the phone. Like I was driving into a client's house and he's like, you could do 250. You could do 250. I'm hanging up. I'm like, he's out of his mind. Like 250. I'm like, why is he saying numbers like that? Like
250 is well on your sights now.
Yeah. And I'm like, he's so unrealistic. And you know what I mean? and then, because I'm also not the type of guy where like, I'm a self-motivator. I can sit around people all day, motivational speakers and all that, and I go, oh, that sounds good. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. Like, nobody motivates me the same way. Except me.
I don't need anyone to motivate
me.
Yeah,
there's nothing you could sit there and say that's going to make me work any harder.
Right.
There's not. So, like, I knew where Frank was coming from. One, he saw the potential. I know he saw I had it in me, but I also thought maybe that was like a little bit of him saying like, all right, shoot for the stars. You know what I mean? But I remember not getting aggravated, but just being like, man, like, why is he setting unrealistic goals for me? Now looking back, it's like, he knew I could do it, and now it's like 250. I wanted to get that, no problem. You know,
300 is more the trajectory that you're on, man, which is rarefied air.
Yeah, for second year in, just straight mortgage leads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
so talk about that. Talk about mortgage protection. Obviously, there's some things happening right now with the interest rates going, up, and less people are refinancing. So. There's always challenges, right?
Yeah.
And you were talking about God earlier sending you signs or challenges and just things to overcome. Yep. It's never going to be smooth sailing.
No.
And then I made a ton of money, and then we all lived happily ever after. And I made
a funny story about that. When I first started, I remember going to the first appointment by myself. I did a few appointments with John, did some ride-alongs, stuff like that, and everything. It was more like policy drop-offs and just showing me like how to like present yourself in a client's house and hold yourself and, just show them that like you're there to be their friend, but you're also there more like to help them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you're there to serve them. And like I don't think he had anybody tell him no. Like we're doing
He's amazing.
conversions and stuff like that. Yeah, but like it wasn't like any normal like, oh, I just set this appointment. Now I'm going out like brand new. They all kind of knew John was coming and stuff like that and everything. So I was just under the impression you can't say no. So I still remember going to my first appointment. Well, my first appointment was a no-show. I remember that.
Right.
Which everybody in the mortgage leads.
Those are fun.
Those are fun. It's
you drive 45 minutes out.
And you drive 45 minutes to an hour. You literally talk to the person the night before and saying, what is the best time for me to come to your house tomorrow?
Yeah.
1 o'clock. You get there and nowhere to be seen.
Unbelievable.
So I remember the first time sitting with the client, going over everything. I have the application out, filling it out, and then them being like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, we're doing the application. And he's like, I don't want it. And I remember I was like, what do you mean you don't want it? Like,
wait a second.
Yeah, I was like,
this is what happens to John Nelson.
I know. I'm like, you don't want it. I'm like, they're like, no. I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. I remember going out to the car and calling John. I'm like, dude, he's like, I have an appointment. I was like, they said no. And he was like, okay, go to your next one. I'm like, they're not allowed to say no, are they? And he's like, yeah.
He's like, I like that attitude, but technically they are.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, they can say no. I'm like, okay. He's like, and he was kind of like, you didn't like tell them they had to get. I was like, no, I didn't tell them they had to get it. But I was like, I just assumed.
I was just shocked.
They filled the form out. They wanted the information. I gave them the information. They liked it. It was affordable. They said no. And he's like, welcome to the visit. You know what I mean? So that was like,
happens sometimes.
I just thought that was funny. And I tell people that story because I was just like, you know, that like, it was just very funny. Like, you said no. Like,
you must not be getting too many no's these days. I'm sure you're getting a lot less no's.
Yeah.
So why don't you walk me kind of through your typical day, like quickly, like 60 seconds, like what is your day for someone who's on pace to do $300,000 of production?
So I have the same routine every single day. I wake up and I have a black folder with all my leads. On the left, I have the ones that I have at least made contact with, that have said, yes, they're interested, or I've sent. The other ones, I've had no luck in getting a response. I go through all those. I call every single one. I don't care what time it says to call them on the form, 2 o'clock on a Thursday. I don't care if it's 9 o'clock on a Friday. I'm calling you. Right. I'm calling, go, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Smith, my name is Jeremy Springer. I'm calling you in regards to your Bank of America mortgage protection policy form that you filled out for us. I just need a couple of minutes to go over a couple of things that you filled out. Oh, yeah, I remember filling out. Okay, you're born on June 18th, 1984. I've used a non-smoker. Blah. Okay, great. When is the best time for me to come out to meet with you and your wife to go over your options? And that, you know, figure out her schedule.
So you verify that information because that's kind of lets them know that you're
yes,
oh, this guy knows my birthday. Like,
yep,
okay,
ask the core questions, the health ones, just to make sure they're eligible. You know, I got a couple of health questions just that they ask you, just to, you know, in case I need to bring any extra forms. You know, we're good to go and everything. You know, any current or previous cancer, heart attack, stroke, diabetes. You know, any daily medications, because like a big thing we're leading, some of us are going into now is just asking people about the 4 core, the cancer, the heart attack, the stroke, diabetes. There's other things now popping up more than usual. You know, ALS, HIV, AIDS is something that's popping up a lot and everything. And so now you should always ask them also, you know, are you on any medications?
You on any medications?
Because then that kind of errors.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, and anybody in the mortgage lead business knows this, if you get a random call from somebody, set them an appointment, oftentimes they're not going to openly tell you about their HIV diagnosis or their wife that just got diagnosed with cancer last week and everything. So you kind of have to realize that. And then when you go out in person and they tell you that, you can't be so upset.
Yeah.
It's just a reality.
It's just a gamble.
Yes,
it's the reality of the business. Yes. It's the nature of the business.
Yeah. So set the appointment, make sure they're healthy enough tentatively to go out and everything, go out. And then,
you're calling, and then you're actually booking your own appointments, and you're booking them 2 days out, 3 days out.
So that was the thing when I first got started. There was pretty much no issue. If your lead came in on Monday, you could set that thing up comfortably for the following Friday, and not really have to worry about them going somewhere else.
Right.
The competition is so crazy these days, and with just nonstop people calling, and not only that, like people buying data, not illegally, but just shit, like people getting data and like not even bothering to call, just showing up at the house.
Wow.
And saying, hey, I got your info. I was in the area. And them saying stuff like, oh, I have an appointment with Jeremy. Oh yeah, Jeremy can't make it.
Yeah. I actually talked to Jeremy.
Yeah. Or I'm here for him. And we're right into that. And it's just like
the
integrity of that's kind of, and that can be for a different day and everything about just, you know, I can get into that about just hold yourself
to a standard?
Yes, because it's going to come back and bite you. It doesn't matter. If you lie to them about, if they find out you're lying to them about anything, you can just shoot that.
Yeah.
Because I've had clients that come back to me and said, oh, that person didn't say he worked for you, and I'm not dealing with that, and they've come back. You know what I mean? So don't, it sounds easy to sit there and say yes to what they want to hear yes to, but if it shouldn't be a yes, don't say yes. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you work with my mortgage company? No, I don't work for Bank of America.
Right.
We got your info from them, and we are the ones that handle the mortgage protection policies in your area. Okay, that sounds great and everything.
Right.
Because you could do that line of, oh, yeah, I work with them, and they called me. You're asking for trouble. Like,
absolutely.
And most people don't care who you got it from. As long as you're legit and the product's legit, they don't care. Exactly. You know what I mean? But, like, don't lie. Just
hold yourself to a high standard, even in an industry where there are a lot of people willing to stoop very low.
So when the leads come in, I make my calls. And if I can't get a hold of them, what I do now is, text messages. So normally I call once or twice. If they don't answer, I'll leave a text message or a voicemail. And then usually, I'll stay on a lead for a month or so. But by that point, they're probably just ignoring you or blocking you, or they went with somebody else. And, there's really nothing.
So you call them, if you don't get an answer, you call them, what, every day for a month?
I'll call them twice a day.
Twice a day for a month.
Yeah.
That is, I think, a huge part of your success.
But you have to do it in a way that you're not coming off desperate or annoying. And I always, when I leave a voicemail or text message.
When do you leave a voicemail?
So if I call the first time and they don't answer, I'll call back the next time. So either if I called them in the morning and I call them back that night, then I'll leave a voicemail. The next day, if I still haven't heard back, I'll call them again, leave another voicemail. And then when I call again, I'll stop with the voicemail. So I'm like, come on, you got 2 voicemails.
Right.
And then that's when I'll start with the text messages. Yeah.
And then you got a text message. Okay.
Yes. But I'll always make sure.
Voicemail.
So I always make sure in the voicemail and text messages, I make it very clear. If you do not want me calling you or following up, just tell me.
Yeah.
And I won't. I'm not. If you're sitting there and telling me you don't want this, I'm not.
I'm not chasing it. I don't have time to chase.
Yeah. I'm not going to call you back. Like, what was that? It's funny. Like that Jim Carrey movie when he's like, "Hey, did you call me? I heard a phone call. I think you called me." It's not like that. So it's like, if you tell me no, okay, I ain't going to be like, "Hey, sure you no." Like, no's a no.
All right.
So. And a lot of times, that's when I'll start getting the people that don't initially answer or respond back, text messages work. And that's working with people that are 18 to 65, 70.
Text is everything, man.
Yes.
I don't ever want anyone to call me.
Yes. And it's funny. And my uncle said the same thing. And to me, like, I'm only 38, but I love texting. Everybody that knows me, I prefer texting.
Yes.
But when it comes to this, it's like, I prefer doing everything like over the phone. So it's still weird for me. Like
some things are a better phone conversation for sure.
And that's the thing. I'll get text messages saying like, "Hey man, I got your voicemails. It's just not a good time. Follow up next month." And that's when the communication starts. So it's like, okay, they're at least communicating. Yes. I'm back with them. And then
we got a live.
I always tell people, if you tell me to follow up, I'm going to follow up. So when you tell me to follow up next week, I'm going to follow up next week. Yep. But then it gets to a point to where if they say to follow up or come meet, you just got to cut your ties and take your L.
Once they say next week, next month, okay.
But that's the big thing I think with like especially new agents or even agents that's been around for a while. Because I talk to agents that have been around for a while and they're like, I ain't following up that much. I'm not doing it, and that's great. If you're at that point in your career where you're good with turning down possible sales,
I don't know, man.
Okay,
I think that
if you think that's beneath you, okay. But that comes back to, I'm not calling or texting these people to sell them bottled water or
something they don't need.
Yes. Right. It's like, I think I was like telling you guys, I even made a post on my foot. Like, I feel like I was driving, I was like, I literally feel like this is like the golden ticket for people. Like, if they just understood the importance of like what I'm trying to give them, you would not say no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
have you had any claims?
Just had my first.
Just had your first. Tell me about it.
Yep. And that was different. So I was leaving an appointment in Baltimore, and I saw this Baltimore number called me like 2 or 3 times. And at that time of day, I was clocked out. It was a rough day, selling and everything, just driving all over, nothing going my way. And I was like, I ain't dealing with anybody today. You know what I mean? I see a voicemail pop up, and I'm right in front of Wawa. I was like, let me get something to eat, and I'll call. Then sitting there driving, and I was like, oh, shit. I was like, I didn't listen to that voicemail. And I was like, all right, let me listen. So I pull over and soon as I hear the voicemail, I was like, man, I don't know who this person is. You know what I mean? Like, never heard this lady's voice before. So I'm listening to it more, and like I didn't get much info the first voicemail, and then apparently they called me a second time. I left a voicemail, and I didn't even notice it. So I played that one. I was like, oh, hey, by the way, this is such and such's mom. Give me a call when you get a chance. And I'm like, man, why is their mom calling me?
Right.
First thing that pops in my head, everything bad happens is going to happen. This girl was young. She was only about 35, maybe a little younger. And I was like, she probably told her mom. Her mom probably told her she has somebody better. She can get the policy through. She's scared to call me to cancel. Her mom's going to cancel the policy for her. I'm like, this is the last thing I need. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like a big policy. Like if I had to get the charge back, all well.
Right.
But it was just a point of like, oh my gosh, like this person needs that. Like,
right. Yeah.
This girl had 2 or 3 kids. She was a single mom. I stayed on her for probably about 2 or 3 months because it was around, I think it was around like Christmas when I initially got her lead. And she worked in Baltimore as a prison guard, and she was like trying to get all the overtime she could get and everything. And she's like, I just don't have time. But I remember getting to a point, I was like, do you want this or not? You know what I mean? Like, I know you say you want it, but like, you're just not setting any time away to get this done. I was like, it takes 20 minutes to do the application. Yeah. No, I want it. I'm like, all right, whatever. Just kept on pushing off. And it pushed it off for months. Remember one day pulling in to a parking lot, and she popped in my head for some reason. I was like, let me just call her. And it was at a time that she originally told me, don't call me at this time. It's usually when I'm at work. I can't answer my phone and everything. Right. I was like, what was she going to tell me? No. Like, she's already told me no 500 times anyway. Right. So I called her, and as soon as she answered the phone, she starts laughing. And she was like, I knew you were going to call me today. I knew it. I was just waiting for you to call me. You always call me. I was like, is that good or bad? She was like, I don't know. And I'm like, I have 20 minutes. You have 20 minutes? I was like, we could do this all over the phone together, do a Zoom call, send it to you electronically and all set up. She's like, yeah, I could do that. Okay, great. Does the policy. She gets approved 2 days later. Something like that.
How big was this policy?
$250,000.
$250,000, right?
And she was paying like, and that's why I go. Sometimes people feel like this stuff costs an arm and a leg. I think she was paying $25-$30 a month.
Wow, like a 20-year term.
Yeah, because she was only, great health, non-smoker, young. I mean, it was maybe $30 a month. So about 2 months ago, it was only 2 months later because she only made one payment on the policy. So her mom's calling me. So I call her mom. I was like, hey, this is Jeremy. She said, hey, first thing out of her mouth. She sounded all frazzled. She's like, hey, I saw your card and this folder for an insurance policy on my daughter's table. I'm like, okay. And she's like asking me questions. And I go, yeah. I was like, yeah, it's still intact. Because she was like, is everything up to date with it? She made all her payments. And I'm like pulling up her files. Like, she's only had it for about 2 months. But I'm like, yeah, everything's up to date and all that. And she was like, oh, okay. Then she had like some other questions. I was like, honestly, I can't keep talking. I was like, where's she at?
I can't keep answering questions.
And she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, I thought I told you in the voicemail. She was like, she died. And I'm like, oh my gosh. What? And like literally like only had her policy in place for 2 months. Was literally just texting back and forth with her because she had some questions about some things. Where I dropped off her policy one day and she wasn't there. When she thought she was, she went to work more overtime. I was like, all right, I left your policy, between the doors. Just call me when you get it. That way I can tell you where to sign for your policy delivery receipt and things like that. She said, okay, yeah, sounds good. And that was only maybe a month before this. And so I'm like, what do you mean she died? And she was like, yeah, she was in an accident yesterday coming home from work. So now I'm like literally pulling up my iPad and I'm like, all right, like, so literally I just Googled her name, put the state she lived in, and there was a million articles about it was a bad car accident and everything. Coming home from work and things like that. So I'm like, holy crap. And I was like, yeah, everything's up to date and all that. So, we filed a claim and then, the rule, since it's within a certain amount of time, everything's going to be, look back and all that stuff and everything. But, yeah. And,
it must have been crazy, delivering that check. Her benefit, she had kids,
Two kids, yeah. And I think it's still going through the
probate.
Yeah, because they get since it was so new. Yeah. And all that, just making sure. But last time I checked, it's still, everything was looking fine.
Oh, okay. So it's still
the claim was only filed maybe a month and a half ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it was brand new.
Yeah. So the company's doing the
Their
2-year look back.
Yeah, look back period and all that stuff. But everything was fine because it's not like her mom called me and said, hey, she died of cancer or a heart attack. I was like, well, that's not good because when did that happen?
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So, but awesome family. Like not one, you know how sometimes money can tear families apart and like how much, not once did the mom ask how much it was. All she wanted to know was who are the beneficiaries, which they explained to her and everything. And I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. Like, I hope her mom's not looking. And she was like, all right, I just want to make sure her kids are taken care of.
Yeah,
and that's who were
course.
The beneficiaries, you know, so very, you know, and I've talked to the son and everything and, you know, been talking to him about some things and,
yeah, so you have how many clients now? What would you say that you have over?
Yeah, so I mean, basically
3-4 years.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years of being licensed, but really only a year and a half of like actual. So I mean, I might have picked up 20, 30 clients before full time because like family and friends, but now I mean, I'm probably pushing has to be 250, 300 now.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, I know that's your only claim out of 250, 300 clients. You're you know, you're going to have a lot of claims going forward.
But that's why, like, and I not joked about it, but like I told a couple people and everything, I was like, people thought I was crazy before about follow-ups. This is why. You know what I mean? Like, I could have sat there and told her, all right, you said no, you don't want it, whatever. And I could have looked at it like, all I'm getting out of this is $30 a month. Like, is this really worth my time?
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's like, I pursue each potential client. I don't care if there's a possibility to get $10 or $1,000 a month. I want them all because I know how it's going to help them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and I know sometimes I tell people, and I know they probably don't believe me, but ask my wife. I get as annoyed and upset and lose sleep more so over those $25, $30 a month policies.
Because you know they're the ones that need it.
They're the ones that need it. The ones that cancel at $500 a month, they have, you know, this. They still need it.
Right.
They think they don't, but they do. But I'm like, they're in a position most times to at least
absorb,
gap some things together and everything.
Yep.
And that's the thing. I was like, I could easily sat there and been like, no, whatever. She doesn't want it and everything. But it's like, I mean, and like she was so happy, like she was just laughing the whole time doing the policy and everything. She was like, man, I was telling my friends about you, and they all said, man, you better answer the phone for that crazy white boy. Keep calling you and blah, blah, and all that. And she was like, I'm so happy you called me and everything. I got time and blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, it was awesome. And then that happened. So, I mean, yeah. And that's the thing, like, young people, like, people just never think something's going to happen
to them, man. And
they think they're young. Oh, my mom is still alive. It's like, that's great. But like, this literally was just driving home from work.
Yeah. It can happen at any time to anybody. Yeah. And if you hadn't followed up, if you hadn't been dogged and determined to get her what she asked for, you know, there'd be $250,000 that wouldn't be on the table for that family. It's like you said, you know, this just strengthens your resolve even more going forward because you're like, look, if you tell me to follow up,
I'm going to follow up. If you don't want it, just tell me you don't want it. And,
absolutely,
you know, I'll call the
next person. Jeremy, we got a little thing that we do. It's called rapid fire questions, where I'm basically going to ask you questions and you need to answer as quickly as you possibly can. This is rapid fire. I know this is going to be hard for you, Jeremy.
Yeah, I don't like this. And you gave me no heads up about this either.
Right. I know. We actually really like to surprise people with this. All right, so I'm going to ask you a question. You just go with the first answer off the top of your head. Ready? Mm-hmm. What is your favorite drink?
Whiskey.
Very good. I already know the answer to this next one. We talked in the car on the way over this morning. Morning person or a night owl?
Night.
100% a night owl, this guy. What was your favorite subject in school?
I liked history and phys ed.
What was your least favorite subject?
Math.
Yeah, we get that. We get that a lot. Yeah. What advice would you give your younger self?
Just follow. I mean, I know it's cliche and everything, but if you know you can do something, just pursue it. And don't be scared of failing because you're going to fail, even if you stick with something you think you're going to be successful at. So at least fail doing something
you love
doing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, just do it.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Delaware. I know. People think I'm sick. I love Delaware. My wife, I could text my wife right now and be like, hey, Alliance got me a job in Alaska. And she's like, let's go. We're packing. I just love Delaware. It's all I ever known. I love Delaware. Yeah. I mean, if I could get like different like places like to have like a I know Travis's wife talked about like having like a vacation home somewhere. It's like, oh, well,
right.
How about just a normal home? Like it would probably be like a beach area. I love the beach and everything. So maybe like somewhere by the water. But if I had to pick where to live the rest of my life, it'd be Delaware.
Delaware.
I love Delaware.
Delaware. All right. Any phobias?
Snakes.
Scared of snakes?
Yes.
You have snake dreams? I've had snake dreams like
it's just,
every now and then. But snakes are everywhere.
It's just, and the snake could be like a little black garden snake. I feel like it's gonna just swallow me whole. Yeah, it's. So my wife just started watching a show called Alone on like I think it's Netflix, where they get dropped off in woods and they have to stay there for a certain amount of time.
Right.
And I mean, I could have bears walking by me. I could have tigers. I can manage that. If I see a snake slithering, I'm calling the emergency people. I'm out. Yeah, snakes. By far, like worst year of anything.
What do you believe is your best non-physical feature?
I don't have any good physical features. So.
Well, we're talking non-physical.
I know,
Jeremy.
so that's good. I would just say, like, you know what you get from me. Like,
You're an open
I'm
book.
not good with small talk. I'm not good at beating around the bush. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I never leave a room people going, oh, I wonder what Jeremy thought.
Right.
I'll tell you what I thought, for good or bad. And it's caused a lot of problems, but it's also, people always know, like,
where you stand and what's
where
on your
I
mind.
stand, and there's never, oh, I think Jeremy meant to say this, or I think Jeremy meant it that way. It's, and not even in a abrasive or, and that's, I don't know if that's
just
one
an
of my,
honest.
yes, and I don't know if that's one of the questions on there, but that's my biggest pet peeve is cockiness and arrogance. Like, just be real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just be down to earth and relatable. I mean, so that's my biggest thing. I'm just very relatable. I can relate to the single mom that has debt beyond belief and never thinks anything's going to get better in life. And I might not be able to relate to that very, successful bad person, but empathize. I can at least sit next to him and carry a conversation. I might not be able to relate to them as much,
right?
But I can just very relatable.
All right, fair enough. The last question, which my phone just went off, so let me try to find it here, is what would you change about yourself?
What would I change?
Always the deep question.
I know. And I'll just be honest. I think just more confidence. Like, I'm confident when it comes to certain things. Mm-hmm. But overall, I'm not. And that's probably not what you hear most from people, like, and it's even hard for me.
Top producers?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that, but like, even saying that out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I don't like saying, because
you're very humble,
cocky, and I hate saying that. So I'm sure if you brought in like the top 10, 20 producers for the year,
you're going to stand out like a sore thumb.
I'm the most confident person in this world.
Right.
I walk into a room and it's like, I don't want anybody looking at me. I just want to be by myself.
You're shy.
But if you want something,
if
you want a policy, I'll come to tell you a policy. But yeah, I think just more confidence, not so much confidence in this, just confidence in myself. And that has a lot to do with like my upbringing and stuff like that and everything, but like confidence, and also be willing to take more risks with things. You know what I mean? Because it was a huge risk to take this career.
Yeah.
But there's still risks that you still have to take within this career to keep it going.
Yep.
And, it's just, I always just tell myself, I'm a very faithful person, and I'm just like, I got to this point. God got me here with me asking him to show me a million doors. I don't think he's going to turn his back at this point. I don't think he's going to be like, hey, Jeremy, you got there. Now, you know what I mean? Like, that could happen, but I just feel like too many things have worked out in my favor to get here for it not to
work out in the end.
Keep going. You know what I mean? So,
well, I think that,
whiskey helps with confidence, though. So I've learned that. So
liquid courage.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I like asking that question because it sometimes reveals actually the strengths of a person. You said that you would like a little more confidence, and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, but that's, I think what people like about you is that you are humble and that you are approachable and that you're not a cocky, overbearing type of salesperson, which to me, if you want to not sell something, I don't care what it is, but don't come at me like that
Yeah.
Don't try to close me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
don't try to do some sort of Jedi mind trick on me. I can see through that. I like someone who's approachable, someone who's humble, and someone who's passionate about what they do. And that is what you are in spades, Jeremy. So thank you so much for joining us on the Alliance Podcast. Everybody, Jeremy Springer, the guy is on track for $300,000 this year. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. Yes. He doesn't like to name goals, but I'm going to put my personal goal for Jeremy at $300,000.
Inside Joe Lucas, I have a bet with him for the $300,000. So I need to get $300,000.
Oh well, then we'll be rooting for you, man. Yep. Jeremy, thanks so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Listen to this interview and more on the Alliance Group Podcast.